Hey everybody, Brett from AstartesGaming here, back with another Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord developer blog video. Today we're going to be checking out the developer blog from May 31st, 2018. I know I'm a little bit behind, but as I've said before, I'm skipping over stuff that isn't particularly interesting because a lot of the blogs, especially of late, have been just sort of filler material that neither you or I are going to be interested in, so I just jump right over them. Last time around, there was a Q&A with one of the concept artists who, interestingly, joined them fairly recently. So that's always kind of a head scratcher why they're bringing on concept artists this late, 6 years in. But whatever. There was some cool concept art in it, but otherwise there wasn't really any interesting information. So we're going straight to the recruitment system, which has some pretty useful information. They don't go into a ton of depth, but it is new stuff, so I figured it was worth covering. Anyways, let's go ahead and dive on in. So, greetings, warriors of Calradia. When you set on your adventure, that doesn't seem right. Like, when you set upon your adventures in Calradia, it would be wise to remember the old proverb, there's safety in numbers. The world of Bannerlord is an unforgiving place, and whether peacefully trading or engaging in warfare, players will rely on troops to stand and fight by their side in order to achieve their goals. In this week's blog, we will take a look at how the players will go about raising their own army in Bannerlord by discussing the game's recruitment system. The ability to raise your own army is one of the core mechanics of the Mountain Blade series. Riding from village to village to recruit troops becomes a part of the emergent narrative for players as they build up relations with different settlements to provide access to a steady stream of recruits. In Bannerlord, this mechanic works in a somewhat familiar fashion as it did in previous Mountain Blade games. However, we have worked on improving the system to make it feel more natural and engaging for players. Players now recruit units from specific, not just a specific, but from specific NPCs that we call notables. By making this simple change, we were able to expand on this mechanic and give players more control over the recruitment process. Instead of building relations with a settlement, players will now need to build up their relations with notables in the game, which are located in both towns and villages. Increasing your relation with notables will give you access to higher tier units straight off the bat, and different notables have their own favored troop types, meaning that a particular notable might offer a greater amount of infantry, while another may offer archers. This allows players to directly target and build relations with specific notables that can provide troops, which match the player's preferred army composition. This also means that losing soldiers may not be quite as devastating as it was in previous games, as higher tier troops can be more easily replaced provided you have access to a few friendly notables. So, this may be an unpopular opinion, but I actually don't like this change. I prefer a lot of the way the system was before. I don't necessarily enjoy the thought of being able to just recruit high-level troops that I lost straight back into my army. Granted, that's how the AI sort of cheated it in Warband. Effectively, when they lost a large number of troops, they'd kind of run off for a while, and then they would effectively just spawn back in their army from a list of tables that had like a certain number of each tier of troops in it. So the AI cheated and did it that way, but I don't think making the player do it that way too is the fix. I think it should have gone the other way, wherein the AI has to recruit just like the player does from villages, taking the base level stuff and working their way up to the better tier stuff. I think a good compromise would have been maybe making a hybrid system where in like villages, smaller settlement type areas, it works sort of like it did before, where you're building up relations with the village elder or just the village at large, and you're just getting regular villagers and training them up into something. Whereas in cities and stuff, maybe there's a couple of notables there that you can kind of mingle with and get relationships with, and they help you hire on, professional soldiers that gather in those cities. Something like that I think would be a nice compromise, and I think that would work really well. But just having it so that every place is going to have these notables that you're dealing with, I don't think necessarily fits the game that well. Again, I don't like the idea of just really easily being able to recruit top tier units. Obviously, they'll be expensive, so there is still some limiting factor, but again, training the troops up I felt was as much part of the experience as just the actual recruiting, and that seems to be less so the case now. So that's a bit of a shame. Anyways, another major change we've made is that the AI lords now recruit troops in exactly the same way as players. Well, that's a fix that absolutely needed to be made. And while on the surface this may appear to be a massive benefit to the player, as there are no more magically regenerated doom stacks, it also means that you will be competing with fellow lords for fresh recruits. So that means they're going to be pulling from the same pools that you are, essentially, at least in contested areas. You know, if you own a bunch of territory way off to the side and you go back to your own territory, I doubt there's going to be a lot of competition there. So finally, for those of you that prefer to recruit a ragtag band of warriors from captured or rescued prisoners, then those options are still available. Likewise, mercenaries still feature in the game and can offer some extra muscle in times of need. So regarding mercenaries, I don't really see what their value is, because mercenaries in general are more expensive than faction troops, at least in Warband, and I would wager it's going to be the same here. So the reason you hired mercenaries was because you could hire mercenaries at higher tiers. Yes, they were more expensive than your higher tier units, but they were already at that higher tier. They didn't need to be trained up to it. So that was the advantage that mercenaries offered. If in Bannerlord, I can go to a notable and recruit the top tier cavalry for my faction, why would I care what mercenaries are on offer if I have to pay them more for what's essentially the same quality troop? It just doesn't make sense to me. Anyways, to bring this all together and to help you visualize the changes to the system, we would like to show you an early version of our new recruitment system. And please note that this is very much a work in progress. So here we can see some of the notables. There's 6 of them. And you can see that they have a certain set of troops on offer. Now, it would be nice if they offered a little bit more explanation with this, because they had talked about building relations with them. As far as I can tell, the only indication of your relationship with somebody is the color behind their portrait. And that seems to build toward the top, maybe, but it's not necessarily like anything quantitative. It's more just like a vague qualitative indication. So this one is the most green, meaning he, is going to be probably your best person to work with. This one is a little bit green. You can see it's like maybe right about here, whereas his is about half or so. Hers is red, so she ain't going to offer you anything. And then these guys appear to be neutral, so they're offering you a little bit. Now, I don't know what these... Like, obviously, this is something that you can recruit. Now, the darker ones, I'm assuming, are maybe available, but you can't recruit them. Like, he's not willing to give you those. He's only willing to give you this one, even though he has these. And then maybe this is something that he might have later, but he doesn't have right now, whether you want it or he's willing to offer it or not. I don't know. Again, explanation with this picture would have been nice, but they just kind of say, here you go. And so there's some thing here indicating 3 out of 42. I'm not sure what 3 are being referred to, because there's only one guy down here, and it's either this guy, or this guy. So yeah, none of this really makes a lot of sense without some explanation. This is going to be the new horse mechanic that they were talking about in previous blogs, wherein if you want to recruit or upgrade to cavalry, you need to have horses available, and so this is going to give you the indication of that. I don't know what this symbol is meant to indicate. It might tell you how much this is going to cost you. It might be telling you what your additional upkeep will be with these units. Again, it's not super clear. And then obviously this is probably going to let you like refresh this list. This is to cancel, this is to accept. But yeah, it's not super clear how exactly these portraits factor into this. Why are they highlighted? Why are they grayed out? So on and so forth. But that's all we have right now. So in next week's blog, we're going to be talking to an animator. So I'll probably skip that one unless I read them, even if I don't make videos on them. So if I do think that it'll be interesting, I will go ahead and make one. But if not, then again, I'll skip it. If you have any questions you would like to ask him, please leave a reply in the comments and we'll pick one, blah, blah, blah. All right, so that's the new recruitment system and my feelings on it. Let me know what you guys think. From this picture, it looks like the majority of what you're being offered is going to be the lower tier stuff, so maybe the problem I was concerned with isn't going to be as much of an issue. My bet would be that as you gain more and more relation with that particular person, you'll have more access to the higher tier stuff. So unless you really invest on relationships with certain recruiters, it may not be an issue. You may not ever have access to the top tier recruits, just because you're always recruiting from fairly neutral people that only offer you low tier stuff. But again, I think this change for the most part was unnecessary. I don't know that it adds a lot to the game other than a little bit more needless complexity. Again, it's hard to say without actually playing it, but this doesn't feel like something that necessarily needed to happen. The thing that needed to happen was that the AI needed to recruit just like the player did. That was always something that bugged me to no end in Warband, is that you could defeat pretty much an entire faction. They would, come in a siege to attack you. You'd fend off the siege, chase them down, wipe out all their armies, and then boom, 3 days later, they're right back at you with their full armies again, because all they have to do is go back to their castle, they spawn a new army, and then they attack again. That wasn't okay. That was infuriating to no end. But did it need to go beyond fixing that to this? I don't know. Again, I'm not going to completely knock it until I've tried it, but I don't think it was necessary. I do think this might create some problems, but we'll certainly find out. So again, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I had a great time discussing some Bannerlord with you, and I look forward to seeing you guys back here for my next video.